all this talk about relationship, money, like co-signing, things like that. I think a lot of it kind of ties into having just like one clear understanding of it, but then also like clear expectations with each other as well. And so I think that kind of ties into what this first question this person was asking about. They wrote, how do I explain to my wife that we're poor so she stops spending money that we don't have? My wife's spending habits has gotten us into debt more than once. Recently, we've been going into the hole about $900 a month over budget. $150 at Target, $100 on Amazon, $100 at the mall, all of it buying shit we don't need. I've tried explaining to her that we're barely going to get the bills paid this month because of her overspending. She has it stuck in her mind that we're middle class, so the spending isn't absurd. At this point, we're borderline poverty with 2 kids in daycare. I don't know what to do at this point.
I hate these situations, but I feel like there's definitely like a disconnect here somewhere. Like, obviously, I'm just curious, like, does the wife even, do they work on their finances together? Or is it just like the husband who is like just managing all the money and then just kind of like telling the wife what to do, which is also goes into it as well. She probably doesn't like to be told what to do, right? I don't know.
I feel like this is bad on 2 fronts, because on like what you said, option 1 is like the wife just isn't involved in the finances. Like the husband just handles it all. That's not good right there, just on the face of it, right? Because like one person in control, one person not. Like it's just, that's not how, you should be managing your money. If you're both saying, okay, we're going to do this together, you got to do it together, not, well, he does it or she does it, But on the flip side, like if that's the case, okay, then that's the case that you guys have set. But then that would mean then that the husband's totally enabling this behavior because she's still allowed, she's still able to spend that money. There's still access to funds where she can go and spend, hundreds of dollars on, like he said, shit that we don't need, So I feel like on both sides of that equation, you're kind of you're killing yourself there,
Yeah. But she's also like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes this comes from that like parent-child dynamic where like someone's in control of it. And so you just sort of like rebel almost, you know what I mean? Like, well, she doesn't, it's almost like she doesn't respect what he's saying about it or his approach to it. She doesn't take him seriously or something. But I think the biggest thing is they're not probably working on their finances together. And then she's just, we talked about this last episode, kind of entitled, like, oh, like we're just, middle class. So like we can afford to spend like this, like it's fine, but obviously you can't, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
I feel like if someone said that, like, oh no, we're middle class, so this type of spending isn't absurd, I'd be like, well, what are you talking about? Like to say, oh, I'm middle class, and so therefore I can afford to just spend like kind of frivolously on these, I would say like, okay, $150 at Target, like that's a lot of money, but it's also not, and it's not like this person dropped $1,000, right?
Right.
It's like, it's $150, but like you do that over the course of Target trips, Amazon trips, going to the mall, whatever it is. Now you're talking thousands of dollars, and to just justify that by saying, oh, well, we're not so, in the red that it's not bad, right? Like most middle class families are doing this. Like this is how most people live their lives. Like kind of like what you said about like that almost that level of entitlement of saying like, this is just normal. And so therefore I'm allowed to do this.
Yeah.
That's, I think part of the issue there too, is like the mindset around it of like, we're okay because it's not that bad.
Yeah, for sure. And like, what is she trying to like, I feel like whenever people have like spending problems like this, like there's emotions there that they're trying to like cover up with it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of times people try to like buy their way to happiness, oh, that just this one thing. And then I'll be happy. And then like, here we are, $900 over the budget and we're still doing it every month, but I don't know. How do we fix something like this? Like we know how to do it, but like explain, like how do you get your wife on track with how you want to spend your money, how the household should be spending their money, I should say. How should this work?
Yeah. I mean, like you had said, it kind of depends on how he's tried to approach it so far. Like if he's coming from a place of trying to control the spending, with someone like this who just likes to go out and shop or do whatever, and then you're telling them, hey, no, you can't anymore. Or if this is like their outlet for dealing with other stress, that's just not going to work, right? And so I'm curious if this person, like if the husband has ever approached her and said like, hey, like, I'm not telling you what you can or can't do. Have you just seen our numbers? Like, can we get on the same page with what the numbers look like? And then if you still think that's a good decision, that's a different conversation, right? But it may be coming from just a lack of awareness, because if one person handles the finances, like what more can you expect if the other person just doesn't know then, like, so I almost feel like the starting place is to approach this not so much of like, hey, we need to fix this, but more so of like, hey, let's just both be clear on where we're at, Yeah. And now then you can kind of separate the two of like telling that person what they should be doing versus just highlighting, this is the reality of our situation. I feel like that might be a good starting point. But if he's tried to approach it like that, mixed with the trying to be controlling around the spending, like, I mean, yes, the spending does need to be controlled, right? Like something needs to change here. Now they both need to be involved in it, but if you approach, I mean, all of these things are about communication, right? If you approach it the wrong way, the other person's not going to receive it well.
No, definitely not. And I also feel like, I don't know, sometimes people like this, like they don't think big enough. Like she's just thinking month to month, like doing this like miscellaneous spending and stuff. But like, what are your goals? Like, what do you want to do? Like, what is the point of spending $900 a month over budget? Like, I don't understand. Like, do you not have any future goals that you're looking forward to? Like a vacation for you and your family? Cause they said they have 2 kids. Like that's the bigger thing, is like there's just no bigger picture there. It's just like living in the moment, living paycheck to paycheck. And I think that's where people get really stuck.
That's such a good point. Cause like when I'm looking to work with someone, like they're like, oh, I want to get out of debt. It's like, okay, well, why do you want to get out of debt? Like, why not, I'm not saying this is a good idea, but why not just make the minimum payments? And what's the focus on getting out of debt? They're like, oh, well, I want to build up my savings. Okay. Like, why do you want to build up the savings? Yeah. Like, you kind of can get a little deeper, and then maybe a few times asking why, you uncover, oh, it's because I'm scared I'm going to end up with my parents were when they retired, or I have kids and I don't want to put them in a position where they have to take care of me. Right. Like having that bigger picture, that bigger vision in your mind to say, this is why I'm doing this. That's what I think is the game changer here.
Yeah. This has to be so hard on a marriage. Like I couldn't imagine if like this was my situation. Like, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and like your spouse is just like not doing anything to help you, like how do you even have like a good marriage at that point? Like how could you not be stressed all the time and like enjoy that person? Cause I know this would be hanging over me like crazy.
Oh, I don't think I could have a normal conversation knowing this is the fact, right? Like it just wouldn't happen. But like, I feel like resentment is starting to build up on both sides, right? Because she may be resenting him for trying to control. And if this is her outlet for whatever stress may be going on, she's like, well, you're not letting me, feel better. And then I'm sure there's resentment on his side where he's like, dude, you're wrecking our finances. Right. There is kids involved. So it's like even more so of an emotional tie to wanting to be financially well off. It just, the resentment building up here. This would take a lot to like repair on both ends, right? Like they both got to take it's a two-way street, right? They both have to meet in the middle of what works for both of them. But this is a messy situation for sure.
Yeah. But I think it's actually pretty common, to be honest with you. I feel like people don't have great habits with money together, like as a couple, whether that's communication or expectations or like sharing money and not knowing where it's going. Because obviously if she's spending the money and like, it's coming from both of their accounts, like there's some things not lining up there, to make that happen.
Yeah. And I feel like, a lot of many times why I feel like situations like this, just like they end up like this, where one person's in control of the finances, the other person isn't. I feel like it can be kind of tied to like, I don't know. I feel like I've heard so many people say like, oh, I'm just not good at math, right? Like I'm just not good at this thing. And so like money is very closely tied to just being able to do basic math, I would say. And so just to say like, oh, I'm just not good at money, like that's just who I am. And so therefore there's this person who can at least manage the things. And so I don't need to take control of it. It kind of becomes like that, like a self-fulfilling like cycle where it's like, I'm not good at this, so therefore I'm not going to do it. And then I'm going to stay not good at it, So I think that's part of the issue too, is like people don't have the confidence to approach their finances. And so if there's an opportunity where they can just completely ignore it because one person's willing to manage everything, like you fall deeper into that hole.
Yeah. Nick, I'm not good at math either though. So like seriously, I'm not good at math, but like, I feel like money math is like it's not like we're doing like calculus. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like here's what you get for your paycheck minus like your bills and stuff. How much money do you have left after that? Like it's actually not that hard of math. I think it's just the problem is nobody's budgeting. So like they're just looking at their bank account all the time and like not accounting for things that they need that money for in the future. You know what I mean? They're living like, okay, I have $500 in my account. I have $500 to spend, when really they have like bills that are going to be coming out next week. And I think that's where people get like messed up with their money math.
That's such an understatement, because people assume money is so complex. And like, look, if you're talking in the higher echelons of building wealth, yes, things can get complex, right? But if you're just talking about balancing a budget, like it's what's coming in, what's going out, is there extra? Awesome, right? Like you could figure this out with like a few beans on the table and you just start separating that, like this is like this, the math required to be proficient with the basic levels of finances, managing a budget, paying off debt, making sure that there's enough money left over for whatever it is, whether it's savings, investing, helping your kids pay for college or whatever. Like the level of math, it doesn't extend beyond like addition and subtraction, right? Like maybe some multiplication, but that's really just addition right there. So like the level of head knowledge is the barrier to entry to understand this stuff is very low. It's just the sticking with it. That's where the barrier to entry gets really high, because you have to almost change like who you are in the sense of how you live your life, and that's where people get hung up on, but then they can kind of fall back to, well, I'm just not good at math or whatever it is, right? Because they don't want to approach the identity change that needs to happen a little bit. And so, a lot of this is just the motivation and the behavior change, as opposed to just like it's not rocket science, right? Like we're just talking math. Basic math, like addition, subtraction. You should learn this stuff in like by the 3rd grade. Yeah. Beyond that though, I think there's just people who just don't want to change, Yeah.
Nick, we've talked about this last episode too. Change is really hard. Yeah. We don't want to be uncomfortable. We want to continue to spend all this money at Target and stuff, because again, it's making us happy in our like immediate like existence, I guess. Like I don't know. But I think also the way he talks to her is probably just making it worse. And she's just like resenting him and just going out and spending the money anyway. I don't care, but I think, I don't know. This is a tricky situation, but I feel like all around they need to increase like communication, as well as like expectations and like goals for the future. Like if I had to give a few things to like guide them, I guess. The information, opinions, and recommendations provided on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and do not constitute professional financial advice. Any financial decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are your responsibility. We strongly recommend consulting with a licensed financial advisor or other qualified professional before making any significant financial decisions. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that we are not liable for any financial outcomes.